So we're gonna go through this, um, and this is a YouTube clip of just Israeli TikTokers. It's been like a big thing. They're mocking the Palestinians from in Gaza as they're attacking them, killing them, and so forth. So this is kind of something that's gone viral over since October 7th of 2023. The Israelis are just making fun of, they're tormenting the Palestinians of Gaza that they're killing. And so this kind of thing obviously is very upsetting to Muslims. And the Houthis have said, hey, we have a responsibility to protect. Like, ironically, the U.S., how many countries has the U.S. invaded and attacked with what we in the U.S. or America says we have this responsibility to protect, right? So there's that. Here's another viral video of an Israeli just a Palestinian is like getting upset at him and saying, stop stealing you can't steal my house. And he's like, if I don't steal it, someone else will. And so this is a viral video. This is from a while ago, but it just kind of shows what's going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it's not just Gaza, it's in the West Bank. In fact, this isn't in Gaza. This would be in the West Bank, but just so you can see.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
So, as you just heard him say, he's like, well, if I don't steal your house, someone else will steal it. So, and you can hear he's got what sounds like an American accent. So, there's lots of I guess, Jews, Americans that are Jewish and from other places, they have the right of return or the birthright. Anyhow, if your mother is a Jew, is Jewish, you have that background, then you sort of have the right to go to Israel, and you can apparently take land through whatever process you can steal homes. And so this is an issue. It's been an issue for a long time. Okay, so let's see here. What do we got next? So here's a short video from Dawn News where they just kind of go over what's going on.
On Tuesday, Israel launched airstrikes that killed more than 400 people in just a few hours. These attacks took place overnight when many were asleep. The raids targeted various areas of Gaza, including the northern, central, and southern governorates. Tanks shelled the town of Abbasin and Khan Yunis. Most of the airstrikes hit densely populated neighborhoods, makeshift schools, and residential buildings. At least 404 people were killed in just a few hours. Many of the victims were women, children, and the elderly. There are still people trapped under the rubble, and some families have been completely wiped out. Israel says these attacks were necessary to force Hamas to release the captives being held in Gaza. They also claim that Hamas was rearming and planning a new attack. But there is an important detail. Israel decided to pull out of the negotiations for phase 2 of the ceasefire. This phase was meant to end the war and lead to the release of all 59 Israeli captives still held in Gaza. On the other hand, Hamas accuses Israel of breaking the ceasefire and continuing its violent actions. They said the attacks violated international and humanitarian law. Hamas also pointed out that Gaza's already dire humanitarian situation meant that many of the wounded could not get the medical help they needed in time. In Israel, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, which represents the families of captives, expressed shock and anger over the resumption of the attacks. They fear their loved ones may never be freed, blaming the Israeli government for abandoning efforts to bring them back. There are still around 59 Israeli captives in Gaza, with fewer than half believed to be alive. So, how did we end up here? Israel had previously claimed it had no intention of resuming hostilities after the ceasefire. But when both sides agreed to the ceasefire, Israel refused to give written assurances that it would not restart the war. Despite this, Hamas went along with the terms, relying on verbal guarantees from mediators like Egypt, Qatar, and the US. Meanwhile, the White House confirmed that Israel consulted the United States before launching the airstrikes. The United States has significant influence over Israel, providing most of Israel's arms. However, critics argue that the US failed to protect Palestinian lives and allowed Israel to continue its violent policies despite earlier promises. Israel's actions in Gaza are part of a wider regional conflict. Israel has also been bombing southern Lebanon and Syria. On March 16th, 4 people were killed in Lebanon and 2 others in Syria. Israel claims these attacks were aimed at remnants of the Syrian regime, but the reasons behind these actions remain unclear. Moreover, Israel continues its raids on Palestinian refugee camps in the West Bank, claiming they are targeting Palestinian fighters. However, experts argue that these armed groups emerged in response to Israel's frequent raids and ongoing occupation, which violates international law. As this conflict escalates further, the world watches, uncertain about what's coming next. What began as a ceasefire has spiraled into violence once again. The future of the people in Gaza remains uncertain, and the region is left with more questions than answers.
Okay. So so it there it just describes basically what's going on. As you could see from those incredible pictures and videos, Gaza has been destroyed. It's largely this is Gaza right here. You can see, I mean, it's extremely small. It's very, very, very small. It's, it's like, I want to say it's 5 miles across. It's 5 miles across from the ocean to this dotted line is, I could be mistaken, but I believe it's approximately 5 miles across by some 20 to 25 miles long. So it's a very, very small area, and it's been just relentlessly bombed since October 7th. So anyhow, and as that news clip from Dawn News mentioned, Israel is currently bombing Lebanon. There was they even went in, and they didn't get very far, but they were just bombing and bombing and bombing. Uh, they even bombed Beirut. Um, they killed the Hezbollah leader of Hassan Nasrallah. He's been the leader of Hezbollah for decades. They killed him. They killed his successor. Anyhow, and now Israel is like gone into Syria. Um, the Tahrir al-Sham, basically the former Al Qaeda and ISIS groups, they've now taken over Syria. All of this is Syria. They've taken over Syria. The U.S. controls this whole side where the oil is at, and the farming, and Turkey helped these basically terrorists. They're not basically, they are terrorists, and they're listed on the U.S. State Department's list of terrorist groups. They've taken over Damascus, and now um, Israel is basically allied, and they've been allied with these terrorist groups. They even said, "Hey, well, if it comes between Bashar al-Assad, who was the president or leader of Syria for a long time, for decades." They're like, if it's between him, because he's like allied with Hezbollah and Iran and whatever, we'd rather have ISIS or Al Qaeda or former Al Qaeda. These groups that are now in control of Syria, we prefer them than any groups that might be friends or allies of what they call the resistance, right? Of Hezbollah, Iran, etc. So anyhow, but even now that these terrorist groups are in control of Syria, Israel is still attacking them, and they're coming into Syria here. You've got the Golan Heights, but they're invading. They've bombed all over Syria. They've destroyed the air defense network. It's just a mess. And they keep Israel keeps threatening that they're going to attack Iran, because they say that Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon. And now Trump is saying that if Iran helps the Houthis, or Yemen, who Trump started bombing, in the last few days, he's been bombing every day, then the U.S. is going to consider Iran in any attacks that the Houthis do against Israel, or against the U.S., or against anybody, anything. Trump is going to consider it as if it had been an attack from Iran. So Trump is threatening to attack Iran, and he's already started attacking Yemen. So just to give you a context, this is what's just been come. This is boiling. This has come to a head, and there's already. Let's see, where do I think, yeah. So here from the BBC, U.S. launched wave of airstrikes on Yemen's Houthis. U.S. has launched a decisive and powerful wave of airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. Um, I just kind of want to, quickly, the Houthi-run health ministry said at least 31 people were killed and 101 others were injured. And this has just happened in the last day or two, in the last 3 days, basically, over the weekend. So there's that.